Hey guys, so I am back from my massive US 6 summer trip. So let's talk about what went right, what went wrong, and how we can do better next time. So here we are, back in Scotty's garage, back in Australia. For those of you who weren't aware, I was off for 3 weeks in the States doing 6 summer, and that was amazing, and certainly a bucket list thing for me to do. So it was quite the adventure. A lot went down, and I want to talk about some of the stuff and just talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that people aren't necessarily aware of. It was a big trip, and yeah, wow, it tested me in every way possible. So this is version 2 of this, by the way. I've already shot version 1, and it turned into such a large rambling mess that I went, you know what, I've got to go back and reshoot this. So let's start from basically flying into the US. So it was a 28-hour journey just to get there. That's counting, time in like getting into the airport. So I left straight from Carnage with my bag and straight to the airport, or straight to the airport to stay in a hotel overnight, then up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to the terminal at 5:30, flying out at 7:30. So when you count all that time and then the layovers and stuff, so I flew from Melbourne to Sydney to Dallas Fort Worth to Minnesota, and then drove up to St. Cloud when Brian picked me up in the Fairmont. 28 hours. It was quite a trip, I've got to say. The trip from Sydney to Dallas Fort Worth was a nightmare. It always is, but I had the opportunity because I got the tickets reasonably cheap. Qantas had a red tail deal, and I got the tickets for like about 1,800 US return. So that was pretty amazing. And I should have spent the extra 1,000 to go to premium economy. that was an opportunity I had that I missed out on, because we had a couple sitting next to me, and the lady was just bouncing up and down and wiggling the entire trip, and it was just a nightmare, and I couldn't stretch my legs. And yeah, the trip back was much better. I had a row to myself. Would you believe? I won the long haul lottery. I had a whole row to myself, so I could lay down across the seats on the trip back. That was heaven in comparison. But the trip over was not fun. But I do enjoy going in through Dallas Fort Worth. Is much better than going through LA. And to be honest, this time avoiding LA was a good thing. I wasn't aware there was riots and stuff like that happening. I found out kind of later, because I was very much focused on the car and everything we're doing there, and I wasn't watching any news. Didn't know that there was stuff going down in LA. So it was certainly good for my family's peace of mind that I was in Minnesota and gone through Dallas and not gone through LA and done it that way. Yeah. But anyway, so get there. Brian picks me up in the car. And so Brian and I had talked about this journey quite a bit in the lead up, and he'd arranged to pick up the car for me after I found it. Found a Fairmont in North Dakota, which is pretty far north. It's as north as you can get, pretty much. Minnesota borders Canada, but so does North Dakota. So, up there, the snow gets pretty thick. And so when we purchased the car back in February, we arranged to buy the car back in January, but it wasn't until the end of February that we actually got the car, because, it was so much snow and that sort of thing. You're really risking your life going up and picking cars up in that sort of time. So we got it in late February. Brian stored it, said it was pretty good. He drove it back from North Dakota, so it was a half decent car. We paid under $4,000 for it, and it had working cruise control, air con, it's all the stuff, and everything worked. And when you're talking about those sort of dollars for that sort of car, imagine trying to buy a car here in Australia, that everything works. It's a early 1980s car, and everything works, and it's got no rust. And what's a car like that worth here in Australia? It's like 15 to 20 grand. So it's actually good buying for something like that. So anyway, Brian picks me up from Minnesota airport. It was quite pleasant in, the Temperatures, I'll say Celsius temperatures because no one's going to understand Fahrenheit, but yeah, low 20s Celsius during the day. It dropped down to about, between 10 to 15 degrees overnight. It was cool overnight, but during the day, it's just downright pleasant. Geez, it was nice, especially coming from Melbourne where it was quite cool, very cool, and even cooler now that I'm back. But within 5 minutes, we were pulled up on the side of the road, pulling parts off the car, because of tyre scrubbing and that sort of thing. And we get up there, and one of the first stops, we went out to the workshop first. So took the car straight to the workshop to Darren's place. Darren's place, Leinster's Customs, what an amazing facility. You could not ask for a better place to do what we did. It was brilliant. Like Darren has all the gear and knows how to use it. He had like a CNC mill, he's got a normal mill, he's got several lathes and all the tooling, multiples of each tool, because he hates searching for tools. I hate putting a tool down and not being able to find anything and tearing the whole workshop apart to find where you left this tool. Well, Darren doesn't play that game. He has 5 of each tool. So if he puts something down and forgets where it is, he knows he'll find it later when he does the cleanup, but he'll just go to the box and get the next one. And he has it that way. And what an amazing way to do it. He had racks of spanners up on the wall. He just all the spanners and all the sizes, metric and standard. And on each nail where the spanners were, there was 5 to 10 of each spanner. Yeah. So if you needed 2 3/4 spanners, walk up, bang, 2 3/4 straight off the wall. Although he had good ones in the box as well. But there's some of those ones like 13 mils and 10 mils, like there'd be 10 of them on each nail, So yeah, it was pretty cool. Great workshop. And he had some beautiful cars in there and he's doing amazing work. And in fact, if you want to get a car done for drag and drive events or you want to go hot rod power tour or any of those sort of things, Darren is your man. And we've already talked about this. If you want to get in contact with him, he can prepare a car for you and do all the things. I mean, obviously you're going to be paying for it, but he can do all these things. If you want to find a car, he can inspect it for you. If you want to get it worked on, get it prepared, he can do that. I'm sure he could arrange some sort of storage as well. But yeah, he is your man, and just quality of workmanship and just a fair income, honest guy, which, being from Australia, like I'd never met Darren. I'd never talked to him before showing up at his place. All my dealings were done through Brian, who's a mate of his, but, it's one of those things that there's always that fear factor dealing from Australia to, we've all heard the stories of Australians spending big money with some American companies and getting ripped off. No fear of that with Darren. Darren is just such an honest, fair income guy that loves cars, and it just really comes across when you spend some time with him. Just an amazing place, amazing facility. Anyway, we show up there. And as I said, I'd never met Darren, never had anything to do with him, never talked to him. And that's probably, I should have, in the lead up, knowing what I know now, I should have, so we could have just made sure everything would go smoothly. And everything did go smoothly. But, there's always that introduction period of, getting to know each other. So we get the car there and, the boys are like, hey, let's get started on it. And I'm like, I've just traveled 28 hours. I am physically exhausted and I haven't eaten in 10 hours. So I need food and I need sleep. And I'm going to shoot a video right now. So I shot that little video of because I'd never actually physically laid eyes on the car before that day. So I'd seen pictures, but, did some video around the car, looked at it, and it's just, what a great car. For what I wanted, it was perfect. Not a perfect car, but a great car for what I wanted to do. Because you don't want a concourse condition Fairmont to tear apart and do this thing with. You want something that's pretty tidy, but you know, we're going to be tearing into this thing to make it a, you know, street strip car. So we get up on the hoist and go through it and have a look, and yeah, it's good, honest car, good 20-footer, you know, 2020 car, you know, 20 foot, 20 mile an hour, looks amazing. So yeah, great car for that. So I get from there, I get Brian to take me back to his place, but stop off at Walmart on the way, because when I come through Dallas-Fort Worth, I tried to find a SIM card, an American SIM card, to put into my phone. The only one I found was this one for $70 US. This guy wanted for it, and it had like 12 gig of data, and I said to the dude, like, I'll burn through 12 gig of data today, you know. He's like, oh yeah, but it's really fast, high speed. I'm like, I don't care about the speed. Well, I do care about the speed to an extent, but quantity is what I need. I don't need, you know, super high speed data. I need a lot of data. So we ended up going to Walmart. I bought a $5 SIM card and then signed up for their network, and just chose the plan that suited me. And I found a plan that was like $60 a month, but unlimited data, unlimited international calls. So I could directly call my wife at home. Yes, you can do that through Facebook and all those sort of things as well, but it was good to be able to just hit the button and ring my wife back home, you know, and she really enjoyed that too, I think. So the only downside was they only had 10 gig of hotspot data, which I burned through very quickly uploading videos. So it's just one of those things. But yeah, getting an American SIM card and having an American number definitely helped. I did have global roaming on my Optus, which I definitely needed for certain things, especially when it came to the whole banking side of things, because I had some issues with banking, because, you know, trying to move money around, and I had to have an Australian SIM card in for that, because they all send you confirmation codes, you know, is this you? Yes, it is, you know, and you need your Australian SIM card in there. And, you know, when Amazon, I tried ordering some stuff from Amazon, and it just jammed up the works, because they went, oh, Australian credit card, American address, got to be fraud. And they got my card locked up, and I'm like, and here I am, I've got to unlock my card and do all that sort of stuff. And that was a bit of a nightmare, I've got to say. That really, really made things difficult for us. And just, you know, and from that, other businesses had seen some fraud report. There's obviously something went through the system, and it jammed up some of my other orders. So it caused all sorts of dramas. So yeah. But yeah, so bought a tripod, you know, cheap tripod to put the camera on and that sort of thing, because I couldn't, my bag was so full, I was absolutely at the weight limit of my bag, which is, I think, was 32 kilos. I had a bell housing in there, I had a wiring loom, I had all the very mission critical parts in my bag with me. I'd sent over 36 kilos previously. That cost over $900 to send. They billed me while I was there. $900 and something it was to send that 36 kilo box, 80-pound box of parts. But all the mission critical stuff was with me. So bell housing, ECU, wiring loom, the tuning dongle and stuff like that. All that stuff was with me, because I knew if it come down to, we could modify a sump there, we could make engine mounts there, we can do all those sort of things. But you can't just make a bell housing, you know, and making a wiring loom would have been like a nightmare to try and make a wiring loom, you know. So yeah, that was day one, was just, yeah, like I said, just getting in there, get in there, see the car, go to sleep. And, you know, in the morning it was up at 5 a.m, get a video edit done. And this was the thing, it was like, that was the way it started the process for the whole time I was there. It's like up at 5 a.m, edit, try and get the video uploaded. And I had to do that from Brian's place, because at Darren's place, it's out in the boonies a bit, it's out of town, and they don't have very good internet out there. So I tried uploading from there one day, and it just not going to work at all. So I'd have to upload at Brian's before we headed out, and that was always, you know, a bit of an exercise. So you go to bed at, say, 11:30 at night. Well, we'd leave the workshop generally at like 10:30ish, get back to Brian's, try and get a bit of editing time in. Most of the time I'd get into bed past midnight and then up 5 o'clock in the morning, doing the edit, finish, get out to the workshop, do the jobs that we needed to do. So it was a pretty hectic time. Not a lot of sleep, a lot of work, not a lot of fun. There's no time for fun. Like when I go to the US, usually I like to go to the shooting range and, shoot some guns. I like doing that sort of stuff. I love going to Walmart, shopping for my family and doing all those sort of things. And eating good food at nice places, ribs and all that sort of stuff. I love doing all that stuff, but no time for any of that sort of stuff. It was this work all the time. Paul Bryan, I think he thought it was going to be a lot more fun than it was. And, there was certainly some times where he's like, you could just sort of tell he was like eyes hanging out of his head, just like thinking, it's just, there was some stressful moments, I've got to say. And it got more stressful when Darren's dog disappeared during the time I was there. Like Zena, she's a German Shepherd and 10-year-old, and she just up and wandered off. And it was like, everyone's freaking out because the dog's missing, and missing for several days. That was a very stressful time as well. And all this in an already high stress environment, just added to it. And we're just, I felt really bad at the time. But she showed up. She showed up at about 2 miles away on a neighbour's property. And Darren's place is a lovely place. It's just nestled in there in the woods. It had deer running through there, rabbits. It was like a scene from Bambi, It was just like all this stuff. And, really, really good people, lovely people. And we got, we just banged away on that car. And just the car itself, like the first day was easy. Pull the engine box out, pull the tail shaft out, tail shaft out, cross member, engine and box, out she comes, get the barrel on the stand. All that happened in those first couple videos. And, I shot 2 videos in the first day, I think. And it all went really well until I dropped the alternator. And, oh, man, I couldn't believe I did that. It just rolled out of my hand as I undid the last bolt, and it just rolled out of my hand on the floor, cracked, broke. And we're like, oh, my God. And, we looked around at what the alternatives were for alternators. And some of the American guys said, you can use a 4.6 one that blah, 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 you space it here and do this. And we did find one. We dug one out. We looked at it, and it would physically work. But we got told there was some internal circuitry stuff that might have screwed us up too. So we decided not to risk it. And Darren actually took the alternator. Sorry. He got the alternator and pulled it fully apart, which I've never successfully pulled an alternator apart to the extent that I could put it back together. And usually I just pull them out and replace them. Darren pulled it all the way apart, welded it back together, like putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, put it back together, and we used that alternator all week. It worked. It charged. It did everything. Never had a problem. Didn't throw belts. It charged. It did everything. I'm like, oh, how good is that? So, when it comes to doing stuff like that, Darren is your man. So, Darren at Langston's Customs. He's got a Facebook page if you want to jump on. I'll throw some links in there so you can have a look. But, So, Darren looked after all the, because he's had all the equipment, and I've got experience in using pretty much everything. The only thing I'm not no good at so far is TIG. I've got to learn my TIG stuff, but everything else I can pretty much do. But it's all Darren's gear, and he relies on this gear. So he's kind of like, all that stuff I'm going to do. You happy if you use all my tools, my spanners, all that stuff, that's fine. But this stuff, that's me. And I'm like, cool. It's your shop, your rules. You do it. And he did. And he's doing this in amongst doing his other work for other people and that sort of thing. So, massive thanks to Darren for putting in that time. And, of course, Brian obviously putting in the hard yards as well. I turned these people's lives upside down, their families' lives. I'm sleeping on Brian's pull-out couch, Darren's wife's feeding us, and Darren's helped me, take me down to the parts stores, because he enjoyed that too, because he'd take his hot rod out and we'd go down with that, or his Nova or something like that. That Nova was a good deal too. If someone wants to buy a Nova with a 6-litre LS in it, 21 grand US. That's good buying. So yeah, if you're wanting, that was a car that if I had 20 grand, 21 grand, I should have just bought that. 20 grand, 21 grand US, bought that and done 6 summer in that. But, I wanted to do the Barra thing. The Barra thing into the Fairmont is a dream that I've had for over 10 years. Like, I'd originally put this idea to Street Machine way, way back when we were going over and covering Drag Week. And right at the start of Carnage, I thought, let's do this. And I priced it up for them, and it was they felt it was too expensive and there was too much risk. That's fine. So now more recently, we're refiring the Scotty's garage, and saved up a lot of money, and talking to Brian about doing this whole thing, and getting the car. I take the risk, and in some ways it didn't pay off, but it is what it is. Had a good time. I met a lot of amazing people, and we did something that was pretty tough. And while we didn't fully succeed, I think there's a fair bit of success there. It wasn't all fail. So anyway, we get the car. There was just all those problems that cascaded, So when I originally budgeted all this deal, and I flew in with, I'll say it. I flew in with 12.5 grand cash, plus 5 grand on a credit card. Plus, I had money in my home loan that I could touch as well. And I ended up having to touch that, burnt through all of that, So it's not like it didn't budget for this to happen. I took a fair bit of money. It was fairly uncomfortable traveling with so much money. But, and even people were like, why do you have so much cash? And I'm like, because I've got to pay for a car. So, obviously had to give Brian 4.5 grand for the car and rego and all that sort of stuff, and that's US. And then there's the other stuff, money seemed to evaporate, because we try to get the engine in, engine's not going to fit, and it was this basically the tough mounts were made for 4 and V8 K-frames, because the Fairmonts come in, Fairmonts and Mustangs came in 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, and V8. Most Mustangs are 4-cylinder or V8. And that's where most of the kits are going. Very few people have done Fairmonts. A lot of the Fairmonts are 6-cylinders, but, like Fonzie, we've shown his car before, the Fairmont. It was a 4-cylinder car when Fonzie started. So, Fonzie gave me some tips and information, but the K-frame thing, neither of us really knew if it was going to work or not. Well, we worked out it wasn't going to work. And luckily I reached out to the Fairmont group locally in the US, and one of those guys was 45 minutes away, and he had a Team Z K-frame and A-arms. It was $400 US, so that chewed up a bit of my cash, but it was handy to have, so we went and got that. Darren went there in his Nova to get it back, and we put it up under the motor in the workshop, and it's on the stand, and it's going to fit. We know it's going to fit. And we're like, beautiful. Get it into the car, then we realise it's got no spring perches or anything on it. There's nothing to support springs, and read the instructions, and we're like, oh, this requires coilovers. I'm like, what are we going to do about coilovers? Okay, start doing research. UPR make this coilover conversion stuff that works with a standard strut, because they use a McPherson strut front end, and the standard strut, this coilover kit works with that. You're going to do some grinding and stuff like that, but it all works, and it works pretty simply, and it wasn't a bad deal. I think they were by the time we got them shipped to us, they were a bit over $400 US, and that was good. And then we put them in and realised we need caster and camber plates on the top, and they got delayed by day after, they cancelled our first order because of fraud problems, your credit card issues. So, it took 48 hours for the caster and camber plates to show up instead of 24, which was a real drama that put us behind. Because there's a lot of things relying on us to get the car back on its front wheels before we could move on to other stuff. And we do other stuff while we can. There's heaps of jobs to do, but, that really put us behind, having those caster and camber plates show up late. And then to find out that the strut tops on the struts that came with the car that we'd already modified had been sawed off, and they didn't fit with the caster and camber plates. They weren't long enough, so we had to go buy new struts. So, all this stuff wasn't budgeted for. So we put an entire new front end in the car, and I'm saying not just suspension, brakes as well. I had a suspicion that the master cylinder was not going to work, the booster master cylinder. So I budgeted for that we were going to have to relocate the master cylinder, but they were only, that relocation kit was, with a master cylinder, was $170 US. It's cheap. But, we didn't replace the discs, but we replaced the calipers, lines, master cylinder, all the front end. I mean, we did the rear wheel cylinders as well. We replaced probably 90% of the brakes and 80% of the suspension in that car. The only thing we didn't do, rear springs and shocks, which we could have, but it just got to that point where it's just no time. And I wish I'd done the shocks now, looking back, but the springs were fine. The shocks, we needed to do the shocks because, there was no absorption at the end of the journey with those shocks. So by the time we get the car all together again, it's time to leave, So we had to hire a truck and a trailer from U-Haul. I let Brian handle that deal. I probably should have looked at the fine print because we got burnt on that on the back end, but we got that little box truck. I saw the box truck and I thought, what a disgusting piece of vehicle. I thought this is going to be terrible to tow with, and it actually was one of the best tow vehicles I've ever experienced. It did not wobble or waver or anything like that. We drove through some fairly high winds. It didn't move around at all. It had a 6.6 litre LT V8 in it. It just hauled, and it was speed limited to 75 mile an hour. So we had it pegged down the interstate, 75 mile an hour, just on the governor. No problems at all. The trailer towed beautifully. It all hooked up very nicely. Like the car got onto it very nicely. If you've seen some of those videos, just is a great setup. It's just a shame that they really hammered us when it come back in terms of like what was supposed to be cost us $1,600 to $1,700 US when we got it back, ended up being $2,400 and something US. And I just went, what the fuck? And it was, like the mileage was higher than what I was told. Online when I'd done the research, it was $1.09 per mile. They don't give you any free miles, which is bizarre. Over here, we always get a bit of free miles per day. So I thought, got this thing for 10 days or whatever. Surely we get a couple of free miles. Nope, no free miles. $1.29 they charged us per mile. So there's an extra couple $100 just in mileage, extra couple $100 just in taxes and stuff like that. Some other stuff. It just blew out something fierce. And I was just like, got to say, at that point, I was really glad we had the GoFundMe money, and we had it by that stage. So I guess that's something else I should touch on, the GoFundMe thing. Thank you for everyone who contributed. Screw you to the guys who whinged about it, because I didn't ask for this to happen. I asked, sure, this was my journey and I'd planned all this, but I didn't go into it planning to do the GoFundMe thing. People were reaching out to me very early on saying, Scotty, how can we help? We want to help. We want to help contribute to the journey because we love what you do. You're doing videos every day. It's amazing. I love what you do. And I'm like, well, the only way we can do this, you try and do it for YouTube or Patreon or anyone like that, they take 40%. GoFundMe don't only take about 5%. So I said, all right, I'll do a GoFundMe thing. But, you know, and knowing full well I'm going to cop some shit for it, but I did it anyway because I could see at that point I was bleeding money at a great rate of knots. And while I had, you know, still some money to touch, I could grab it. I was just trying to protect myself because I didn't know where it was going to end. You know, like the money just kept going and going and going. And yeah. So, you know, I had some people reach out and send me pretty rude messages about it. And there was some memes that were sent to me and stuff like that. And it was all very, you got to wonder about people that send you that stuff, you know. Here I am at probably one of the lowest points in my journey. And yeah, it just, and you got people sending you this stuff and you really have to wonder about their mental health, that they would actually spend the time to do that. Like, it's just crazy. So anyway, raised $10,000 in 24 hours. And it was amazing. Like, I did not expect it. And I only did it because people asked me to do it. And the funny thing is, people were like, oh, you got 10 grand now, you must be happy, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I didn't. On paper, yes, 10 grand Australian, so say $6,200 US. Yeah, but I didn't get to touch that, for ages. Because there's a lot of processes you got to do to actually get to that money. You got to prove your identity and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, bank accounts have to be provided but proven as well. They do a lot of checking. So I didn't get to touch any of that money until right at the end. And glad that I had it because, like I said, $2,400 bill for U-Haul and stuff like that. So, yeah, that helped. You know, and of course I was well into my accommodation budget at that point too. So, you know, you got to think, over the course of the journey, even staying on Brian's couch for 10 nights or whatever, 8 to 10 nights, you know, it still cost me $1,000 in hotels at least. Food is just ludicrous. The cost of food in the US has blown out so much, unbelievably so. And, you know, if I took someone, you know, if we went into lunch, I'd pay for it, you know. So, you know, 2 burgers and drinks, and we're not even talking alcoholic drinks. We're talking like, I'd have an orange juice, Brian would have a water or something like that, and it'd turn into $50 US, you know. And you're like, and that just became a thing all the time, every time, you know. It seemed very expensive compared to previously. I mean, because you got to tip and all that sort of stuff, and I guess I over tipped most of the time. You know, I feel conscious of the people that are serving us, and we had amazing service over there. It was really good. But yeah, I tend to over tip a little bit. But you got to think about that. You know, it's like if you're tipping 20, 25%, that's a quarter of your bill, you know. So yeah, it adds up. Anyway, so we get the car together. We drive down to Rockford in Illinois for the hotel that I'd booked, and it was like 30 minutes from Byron. Brian had to split off from me at that point, so I'd drop him at the hotel. He's got to join the Six Summer crew because he works with the Six Summer crew as one of their staff, you know, organising, well, not organising, but directing people and doing stuff within the event. And that's one of the things he does. I go to my hotel and edit and all that sort of stuff and get the car down to Byron for Six Summer for check-in. And the whole time I'm there, I didn't realise till the end that they were sending out alerts to everyone via SMS. They didn't have my details, so I'm not receiving any of these messages from. So I didn't know that I had to have the car there before 1 p.m. for check-in, or at least join the check-in line. I get there at 1:05 and I get told, you've missed check-in. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they get me into the line, but, you know, and then they're like, does the car run? And I'm like, no. I'm like, well, it has to be running for check-in. I'm like, okay. In Australia, when we do drag challenge, I'm used to like checking in cars that aren't running or whatever. We do it all the time. As long as they're running in the morning and we get someone to run their eyes over them, make sure the safety stuff's done. It's all good, but obviously they have different processes over there, and I've got to accept their processes. So they say, look, we'll put you down for exhibition, but you're not going to be in competition. I'm like, that's fine. I'm just here for the experience, to enjoy, what is Six Summer. And that was, I didn't care. I was never going to win anything. I mean, at its best, if the car had run to its absolute best, it was only ever going to run a 12. And obviously it did not run to its best and did not ever run a 12. But here I am trying to struggle my way through that process, make the thing run. I had Sean show up. I drove in and Sean's like, hey, Scotty. I'm like, don't know this guy, but he's like waving at me. I'm like, pulls up and I said, dude, jump in. He's got a bag in his hand. He's like, what's the bag? And he's like, I've got an alternator for you, BA alternator, plus a bottle of Kentucky bourbon. And I'm like, that's amazing. He showed up to bring me an alternator and some bourbon. I'm like, thank you. And he stayed with me for a few hours and helped out. And then he had to head back to Kentucky. And then Troy showed up. And then Troy was amazing. Here I am under the car, under the dash, trying to find the right wires and do the pedal on the frickin' brake pedal and that sort of thing, and try to hook up the brake pedal switch. I was just having a terrible time. Troy sticks his head in, you need a hand. Like, my first reaction was down at, I nearly told him to fuck off because I was having a bad time. I've got to say, I was having a bad time. And, but no, Troy brought me, water and all that sort of stuff and handed me spanners, and he was great. And he was with us until 1 a.m. in the morning. And even Brian had rejoined us at that point after everyone had gone. Brian should not have. Brian should have gone into a hotel and gone to bed, and, because he got in trouble the next day for showing up late because he'd slept in, because he was there with us until 1 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. So anyway, Troy goes to sleep. We don't get the car going. I'm on the phone to Zane and Bill trying to work out problems. I'll find some problems on the way, didn't have the earth hooked up, didn't have the crank sensor plugged in. But these were not the problems that were causing us not to run. I mean, they were problems that would have caused us not to run, but they weren't not the problem. The problem ended up being that the ignition wire on the loom needed to be put on a wire that was switched 12 volts, but did not disappear when you crank. So when you crank, a lot of the accessories shut off. The accessory circuit shuts off, and I had the wire connected to that. So the computer, I'd go to crank and the computer had shut off. So the computer can't fire anything when it's off. So Bill gets me to do a jump on the starter relay in his little box that he includes as part of his loom. Oh my fucking God. It runs. The car fires up straight away, and you're just like, fuck me. Like, why? But I end up finding a wire that's appropriate. We get it fired up, get the car, and this is the next day. Like, I'm in Advanced Auto Parts car park trying to get it sorted, because the choice was go out to the track where the helpers are, but there's no parts, or go to a parts store where there's parts but no helpers. And I figured, let's do it that way. At least I've got parts. I can do most of it myself. And I'm also not having to deal with a crowd around me at the time either. So get the car running, get it out to the track. Troy shows up immediately, helping me, we get the seat into the car. We sort out the shifter, because it was in first gear when I fired it up. It didn't try and climb off over the front of the trailer or anything, because we had the converter in there, thankfully. But it could have. Luckily, it did not. But had to sort out the shifter business again. That shifter causes so much drama over the course of Six Summer. And anyway, but we got it sorted. And we're right ready to go down to staging lanes and go for a run. And they make the call over the PA, staging lanes are closed. And just like, fudge. Yeah. So we missed the first day. And, and I do the same thing. At our event, we play very much to the rules. If you don't show up on time and you're not there on time, you don't get to play. You know, I mean, we will let you do a run, you know, the next day or whatever. If you entered and say you missed scrutineering, we would let you do the event unless you be a real arsehole about it. We've had that happen at Drag Challenge. People have lost their shit in such a way that we do not want them at the event anymore. That happens. But generally, if people are like, yep, okay, it's on me, I didn't make it on time, will you let me run the rest of the week? And we will. We will let them show up and do exhibition passes the rest of the week. And we've done that many, many times. It's just that when people go the opposite way, that's when we go, well, fuck you, don't come back. And that has happened as well. Anyway, so I'm not being that guy. I'm not that guy. I just went, what can we do? Show up tomorrow, make passes. I'm like, cool, let's do that. And so me and Troy spend the time getting the car ready. It's not until 8 p.m. that we actually get the car ready to drive out of the track. It is not left the track at this point. The car only fired up, like the engine only fired up for the first time in the US that day. Think about that. That engine had never fired up in the US until that very day, and here we are about to just hit the road and drive. And it's just like, we are absolutely nuts. And I said to Troy, it's like, and I'd said, you know, do you want to come? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to come along, you know. And I'm like, cool. I will pre-warn you, this is not going to be an easy journey. We are going to have problems. It's guaranteed. We're going to have problems, and it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. If you're up for that, but don't say I'm up for that and then whinge about it later. Just, you know, if you're up for it, this is the way it's going to be. So welcome aboard, but yeah, it's not going to be an easy journey. And to be honest, the journey was probably easier than I thought at that time. We had the radiator explosion. So that happened on the track, on the way to the track, 9 miles from the track on day 2. The radiator let go. When it let go with a massive bang, and shit come up either side of the bonnet. And I thought, holy crap, is this thing about to like fully go into a ball of flame? I didn't know. I didn't know what had exploded at the time. After a couple of seconds, I realized there is no fire. We're good. It's just sort of maybe a radiator hose or something. As it turns out, it was the end tank of the radiator had split from tyre top to bottom. I think a combination of old radiator and a too high a pressure cap on the filler. Yeah, I think that's what caused it. So we get towed back to an O'Reilly's where we'd stopped probably 15 minutes before. Like, it was 9 miles back to the O'Reilly's. And we talked to the young guy there, Gage, and he was amazing. Gage was amazing. And he was, you know, like, I told him what we needed at that point, which was we needed to hook up the vacuum line for the manifold switching. So from the short runner to long runner. So, and Gage was like, yep, all right, cool, we'll find you these fittings and make it all work. And then just down the road, boom. So we end up back in his car park, and we'd go through his entire stock of radiators looking for something. And the O'Reilly's have this amazing feature on their system where they can put in the dimensions of the radiator, and it will separate and like, cool, this is our radiator sizes that we think will be fine. And then they can look up individual photos, and it shows where the ports are and everything on everything. And it's just a great system. But none of the radiators were going to be suitable, not without heavy modifications. So we just went, you know, what are we doing? Like, let's stop. Let's not modify any of these radiators. Let's just wait for the right radiator to show up in the morning, and let's go find a bar and somewhere to stay. So we found a place that had both. We found this little bar down on the lake that had rooms out the back, $100 US for a room with 2 beds in it. Yes, it had its own shower and toilet and everything. That was cool. And then we go into the bar, and everyone in the bar knew each other. We were fresh meat, and they heard my Aussie accent, and immediately they want to hear about all the animals that can kill you in Australia and that. And we just spent the next 7 hours just drinking and talking shit. And it was amazing. And these people were the most genuine Americans you've ever met. And we had a great time. We never not had a drink in front of us. We had a meal as well. So 2 meals, so a meal each, plus our drinks, and the bar tab was only $50 US. I still don't understand how that worked out. And obviously there was a tip on top of that, so we put our tip on top of that, but still. That was, yeah. And we're not big drinkers, but, you know, I had several bourbons and coats, several vodkas and orange, some other, I tried a cranberry and whatever for, just as a shout out to Bubba. They had this amazing thing called the apple pie, which they make based off this 190 proof alcohol. 190 proof alcohol. And then they do this mix with it, and it tastes like apple pie. And it is the most amazing drink I've ever had, and it's one of the most potent drinks I've ever had. Like, just raw, the base alcohol smells like paint thinner. Like, it just, you couldn't drink it. But when they do this mix with the apple pie mix and whatever, I wanted to buy some, but I thought we'll never get this back through customs, you know, because, yeah, the alcohol content's way too high, you know, like it's pretty potent stuff, but beautiful, beautiful to taste. So Gage and his girlfriend Jessica come down and have dinner, have some food with us in the bar and have drinks after Gage got off work, and then he dropped us there and he picked us up in the morning and took us back to O'Reilly's. We did the radiator swap in the morning, brand new radiator, put a lower pressure cap on there, sorted out some other things that were bothering us, and we hit the road again. And the car never missed a beat from then on. I mean, obviously we had some shifter issues we needed to sort, that sort of thing, but we just hit the road and drove. And you don't understand how amazing that was, how many things worked that shouldn't have. Like the tail shaft fit that car. We put, you know, the Barrett engine, the torque power bell housing, the C4, the tail shaft, it all fit together in that car with the tough mounts, and it all fit and it all worked. You know, the alternator that I dropped on the floor, it worked. All these things just came together. You know, we put the whole front end, like it's got a whole new front end in it, and none of this stuff had ever worked together before. And we never did a wheel alignment. We didn't put a string line on it. We didn't do any measurements. We purely just eyeballed it to roll it on and off the trailer so we could go to the exhaust shop and get the exhaust done. And from there, I just tightened up the tie rod ends and stuff like that, and it drove straight. I could let the wheel go and it would go straight down the road. Yes, the wheel was a bit of a thing, and people sending me messages going, Scotty, can you fix the steering wheel? It's doing my head in. But I'm like, dude, we've got no time. There's no time to do anything. We've got to be, you know, on the road from here to here to here, and then we're in bed at like 10:30 at night, and then we're up at 5, 6 in the morning, get the edit done, get on the road, and they're just driving and just racing. There's no time to do wheel alignments and stuff like that. And that car just went straight down the road. It didn't scrub the tires, didn't do any of that. And I thought, I have paid for wheel alignments that have absolutely ruined the tires within 1,000 Ks. And here we are with just purely arse and eyeballs got this wheel alignment to work. And it was the same for the entire journey. Yes, it would over center slightly if we went right. It would turn right and over center, and left it would turn poorly off to the left. But other than that, it was fine, you know. So we get to Cordova. Cordova's rained out. We take some photos. We join the route. We start catching up to the crowd. You know, we go to the Poopy's Biker Bar. That was amazing. I'd love to be there for when that place goes off. I mean, yeah, that place must be amazing. You know, when, you know, you get 1,000 bikers in there and doing burnouts and strippers and all the stuff, and just, yeah, it looked like a good time. And we get down to Dubuque that night. You know, we've driven through some fairly torrential rains that claimed some cars. Dubuque was actually pretty cool. The guy at the check-in counter at the hotel, he's a bit of a YouTube fan. He was talking about Cletus and that. And I said, oh, I've got a YouTube channel, gave him my things, and he's left some very nice comments on some of the videos. Dubuque itself was a really cool city. Never heard of it before. I'd never heard of this place. And it was obviously an industrial powerhouse back in the day, and like in the fur trapping trades and stuff like that. Because on the Mississippi, and all the trading stuff was done by water way back in the day. And they had these massive red brick factories in the city, and some amazing buildings and stuff. And it was really cool. And I wish we'd got some of that stuff on camera, but we left the camera back at the hotel and just kind of gone to find some food. And we went to this really cool joint down on the river called the Yardarm. It was a little bit hard to get there because traffic and all this sort of stuff. Like they're doing roadworks and things, but they're putting money back into the city, and it's going to be a pretty amazing place in about 10 years, I reckon. But really, I'd love to go back there. I'd like to explore that place a bit more because it was pretty cool. Really enjoyed that place. And the Yardarm, really nice food. Really enjoyed that. And then we're off to Tri-State Raceway the next day for our first hit out on the track, and we get there and find out we're in the last group that's going to run. So, all right, we've got a full day here of prep. So we try and do some stuff with, we had to go buy drag radials, new helmet, there's another $1,000. Amazingly though, the drag radials were $560 US for the pair. So say $800 for a pair of drag radials, 235s. Now the last set of 235s bought here in Australia cost me $1,500. So $800 Australian for a pair of drag radials. Didn't seem so bad, I've got to say. But yeah, we end up getting some runs in towards the end of the day. We got our first run out. It was 15.6. It was terrible. I just left it in D for drive, and it went went all three gears, but it just shifted at fairly low RPMs in each gear. I'm like, okay, all right, 15.6. All right, we work from that and go out the next run. And I'm trying to fix the shifter to get it back into first gear, and I obviously didn't work because I didn't get first gear. And I went and did the entire track in second gear, and it's a 16.5. And it was just, that was kind of one of my lowest points of the whole journey. I should apologize to Troy. Like I wasn't mean or nasty or angry, but I was just very quiet that evening because my brain's just going, oh, because to me, 16.5 is disgusting for what, a Barra in anything should do better than that. I mean, it's an FG Falcon will do it a 16.5 with a Barra in it, So I was pretty down at that point. So that night we get, and obviously the richness thing hurt it. Like it was going, as I said, 8.6 to 1 air fuel ratios. It was terrible. It should not have run. I don't even know how it did run. But it was super rich on the air fuels. We weren't getting first gear on the shifter. And obviously we're dealing with, at that point, we still didn't know specifically, but now we know. It's a 2.73 to 1 rear gear, so diff ratio. So yeah, what do you do with that, So we get Zane to pull some fuel out. And the real problem with the fueling was that the engine temp runs into the back of the cylinder head, and there was that much room behind the sensor to the firewall, and there wasn't enough room to plug it in. When we were putting it all together, it looked like there was going to be enough room, and it just, by the time we got it all up and together, it wouldn't do it. And at that point, we were just kind of like, we don't have the time to fix this. So what we tried to do is wrap some copper wire around a part on the cylinder head and then round the threads and trying to transfer the heat from the cylinder head to the threads. It didn't work, but we tried to make it work, and Zane ended up just like zeroing out that component and just doing a straight tune on it, and he got to pull the air fuels down. So for the night drive we got down to like low 10s, and then the next day we got low 12s, mid 12s, which is totally fine for a natural aspirated setup. We did a street hit and it was fine. It was like low to mid 12s. I thought, let's go do a run at that. We get out to the track, and it had obviously been raining that morning. It wasn't until 2 p.m. we got to run on that last day. And yeah, it was yeah, we got to run and ran a 14.9. And I'm like, we're in the 14s. All right, so that's moving the right direction. And one thing they allow you, if the staging lanes are still open for your group, you can jump the line again and get 2 runs in a session. So I did that, jumped in there, and I'm sitting there with the bonnet open. I had a look down, and I noticed that the lever for there's where the dual band manifold is controlled, the vacuum lever that pulls up is pulled up and the engine's not running. I'm like, that's not right. It should be down when the engine's off. It should only pull up when it's at maximum vacuum at idle. So I switched the vacuum hoses around, and it pulls down, start the car, it pulls up, and I'm like, that's the way it's supposed to be. So I go out and do a run, and it goes 14.6 straight away. So obviously having that wrong cost us some time. And then that was our first 2 runs in the morning. So then we had to wait the rest of the day. So we go and fix the shifter. Oh, we'd already fixed the shifter at that point. That's right. Yeah, we were talking to Zane about some stuff, and we wanted to data log some runs, and we get in there. The first run doesn't data log in the afternoon. And I tried stalling it up because Zane's like, try stalling it up. It might work for you. It did not. This combo just does not like being stalled up hard on it. Did a slow 60 foot, and it ran a 14.6 again. And I'm like, okay, that didn't work. And it was a slower 60 foot time. It was just terrible. But I revved it out harder in that first gear, which gave us up higher mile an hour. So we knew we needed to rev it out in first gear, just didn't know how far we could take it. So in the last run, I get it to data log. We don't get to use that data log for anything because it was the last run. But revved it out as far as I dared, shifted, go through the trap in second gear, and it goes 14.55 at 99.73 mile an hour from memory. So nearly 100 mile an hour. And I thought, you know what? That's not too bad. I mean, in the whole scheme of things, 14.5, yeah, it's not. Obviously, I wanted 13s, and I think we could have got there if I had time to work with Zane on a tune to get it down there and work out where the maximum RPM, because I had no tacho I'm working off the speedo on it. The speedo is like north of 55 mile an hour, and 55 in that car is actually 63. So, 63 mile an hour plus, and it's still not hitting the limiter in first gear. I'm like, how far do I need to turn this thing in first gear, So, and I'd shift and go through the traps in second gear. I couldn't even get to third gear because the bloody thing is so high geared in the diff. But yeah, 14.5, I mean, that's Australian muscle car territory. Like GTS Monaro never ran that. XU1 Tirana never ran that. Only 2 cars that were down in that territory, E49 Charger and the Phase 3 Falcon. So Phase 3, I think, did 14.4, and a E49 did like a 14.1. E38 even was only a 14.8. So as quick as some of the best classic Australian muscle cars we ever had with 273 gears, so not muscle car gears. If it had 3.5s or 3.7s, we'd deep into the 13s with a dead stock barra. Dead stock. It had the spark plugs that got to, when the engine was delivered to us on the pallet, I didn't pull the coils out. I left the spark plugs in there. People are going to be like, why didn't you change the spark plugs? I'm like, what happens if it pulled a thread when I pulled the spark plug out? Imagine if it had done that. We'd be done. So it's got spark plugs in it. It's got coils in it. I'm leaving those things alone. I plugged the loom into it. We started up. The car runs perfectly fine. And I ran it like that. And it ran all week. No problems at all. So yeah, we did a thing. Was it as good as the thing that I planned? No, but we certainly still did a thing. Troy was amazing. Couldn't have done it without him. Brian, Darren, all those guys. Actually, I've got a big thank you list. Let me run through the thank you list of everyone I need to thank. Because, yeah, it was quite the adventure. just needed help from all these people. So I'll start with the Australian businesses first, and that is Michael from Dominator Sport. He was the first guy I talked to about this way back. This is even probably last year I was talking to him about it. He got us that Barra and got it delivered to Darren's place. And, yes, we pulled the sump off it, and it obviously hadn't had the best of oil changes and stuff like that. The engine ran fine. The engine was perfect. The engine did everything we needed it to do. So it's fantastic. So Michael and his team at Dominator Motorsports, if you're looking for a Barra in the US, you need to reach out to those guys and get yourself a Barra. Obviously, Jason from Tough Mounts. Again, Jason was someone I talked to way back at the start about mounts of getting a Barra into a Fairmont. Like I said, the Fairmont thing hasn't been done a lot. Most of the swaps are done into Mustangs. But the Fairmont thing is definitely worthwhile because with the Barra in it, that car weighs 2,800 pounds, 2,805. It's 1,270 kilos or something. It's the weight of a Tirana, so it's a pretty light car. And, I think there's a lot of scalability there, like in terms of ET. We can make that thing go really fast. Craig Pennant at Torque Power with a bell housing. I told Craig what I was doing. He's just like, yep, what do you need? I need a bell housing C4 to Barra. He sent it up to me. And I carried it there to the US in my suitcase. Customs was not a problem. I don't know if I told that story yet. Customs wasn't even open when I come in. I go in and I tell the immigration dude what I'm doing. He's all good, stamp. All right, grab your bag, go to customs. Customs wasn't even open. So just trying to pass going, okay. Put my bag in the bag drop to jump on the plane for the next part of the journey. And yeah, no one ever looked. So I had a bell housing, a wiring loom, an ECU, all this stuff that might have got me asked questions, and it did not. And it was all good. To get into the US, everyone told me it was going to be super hard and you're going to have all these questions and be careful what's on your phone. You know what? As the guy from Pitch Meeting says, it was super easy, barely an inconvenience. It was just there was no problems, no dramas at all. People make way too much of this stuff. Bill from Hooten's Harnesses, Bill made me a beautiful plug-and-play harness, worked perfectly. Any issues were mine in that I hooked things to the wrong spot. Like I said, the ignition wire got hooked to an accessory circuit that switched off when the ECU, we're trying to start the car and the ECU would be powered off and stuff like that. And so that was a problem. That was a real problem. And then Zane from Max Performance. Now, Bill was up sometimes at 3 a.m. in the morning back in Australia trying to work with us to make this happen. And then same with Zane. Zane up at all hours trying to tune with us and that sort of thing. And supplied me a dongle to plug in so we could do tuning, so we could do all these sort of checks and stuff like that. These guys just go above and beyond. They're just amazing. And couldn't have done it without them. Tom Bailey and the Six Summer crew really welcomed me. And just obviously they didn't bend the rules for me and I didn't expect them to, but they supported me in that way that, they knew what I wanted to do. They had no problem with me just, they could have turned me away and said, dude, you didn't make it. Go home. Come back another time. But no, allowed me to make runs whenever I could make runs and just enjoyed having me there. I knew some of these people from previously, like Keith and Tonya Turk, wonderful people, Tara and Sean and their son, Matty. These are all people I knew from Drag Week way back. And it was just amazing to see them all again. And, just the love I felt was great. And then even like Alex Taylor and her family and that sort of thing. Like I'll go up and see Alex and go, you remember me? And she's like, of course I remember you. You saved our laptop. And, because we found her laptop in a car park one day and brought it to him at the track. And, got to spend some time with those guys. They had an amazing journey. I mean, they struggled as well. I mean, they're at the deep end of the field and you don't do this sort of thing without having dramas, So it was it's cool to catch up with all those guys, Steve Morris and all that. Steve Morris is a heavy hitter. Like, he's always been a heavy hitter in the engine building world, but he's now a heavy hitter in the drag and drive scene, and he's a YouTuber now, which he never used to be, you know. So it's funny talking to these guys who are now big name YouTubers in the US, but never used to be. You know, I was always the YouTuber, and now these guys are YouTubers with bigger channels than me now. So it's kind of funny how that all goes about. And yeah, so it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Obviously, everyone that supported the Patreon, my Patreon and YouTube, the supporters, you know, people, everyone that clicks and likes and leaves positive comments, it all helps. You know, the people that leave negative comments, if you left too negative a comment, you know what, I'm not even going to play with you, dude. I'll just delete it. You know, it just doesn't exist for me. And some people got angry about that, but I'm like, why should I have to engage with some arsehole on the other side of the world when I'm having the worst time and you want me to engage with you? No, fuck you. You know, bye. And other people, if they're people that have left comments in the past reasonably positive, because I can look back and see what comments you've left in the past, and if it's all negative, I'm like, you know what, bye. But other people are like, oh, you know, and I'll engage because, sure, not everything went right. I get that. I'll try and explain some stuff. I'm fine with that, you know. There can be a discourse there. It's all good. But yeah, anyone that that helped us out with the GoFundMe, again, just amazing. Like I said, it didn't want to do it. It happened. We raised some money and it helped. It really did. So yeah, couldn't have done it without yous. Obviously, from the American side, Brian, his wife Jessica, his daughter Brianna, and then Darren and his wife Laurie and son Caden, and they, like, I turned these guys' lives upside down for, you know, the time I was there, and they just welcomed me in. You know, Darren's mate Shooter, he came in and helped. He didn't appear on camera, but you know, he helped. CJ, the burnout Firebird, he popped in several times, hunted up parts for us. CJ is amazing, a real credit to the American burnout scene, and yeah, just a really lovely guy. Joe from MG Exhaust doing the exhaust system for us. You know, when we really needed it, he stayed back after hours, pumped that out, and did it when we needed it at that time. It was cool, and you know, so the car, and his car sounds really good actually. Like, you hear it in the 1320 video, you hear it in our videos. It sounds good. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot of the Barras sound pretty shit. You got to say. It sounded good, revs good, did everything. So he did a really good job on that. O'Reilly's store 2036, it's in the edge of St. Cloud, but I don't know where its exact location. I think they have a couple. Those guys really helped out. We were buying parts from them every day, like steering rack and struts and all that sort of stuff. We were getting all the brake stuff. We got it all through those guys. And they really, you know, helped us out in terms of like just getting the parts there on time, every day. So, and of course, O'Reilly's in Twin Lakes with Gage, being the manager there, just went above and beyond. I've already left a 5-star review on their site, and several other people have too, which is amazing. I love that, you know, that Aussies are on there going, Gage is awesome, he helped Scotty out, you know, that's really cool. And his girlfriend Jessa, you know, bringing us donuts and chocolate dipped strawberries and stuff like that. It was just really cool. So welcoming, so friendly. You know, these guys are all amazing. So yeah, and just generally, Americans have been amazing on this journey. They've really helped out, and Australians like to think they're free and easy and relaxed people, but compared to Americans, I've got to say we're a little bit more wound tight these days. There's a lot of bitching and negativity between each other when you get to the drag strip these days. In America, it just doesn't feel like that. Everyone feels very supportive of each other. You know, and I had, like I said, Sean showed up, helped me out. Troy, he helped me out as well. Like, and he's amazing all week. Troy was just the most amazing partner to be doing this adventure with, and I would have Troy in the car anytime. He has an open invitation anytime. You know, the dude was just amazing. Jim was another competitor. I can't remember who his mate was that actually owned the parts. We needed these fittings for the transmission, and his mate had them, but Jim went and actually got them. He drove away from the track 50 minutes and 50 minutes back, I think it was, to go and get these fittings for us so we could hook up our transmission lines for the transmission on the Fairmont, and that really helped. And Jim checked in with us every day. He was just a great guy, great competitor, and this is what it's all about. These guys were all amazing. So, you know, and then of course Rhonda, my wife, she's back here in Australia looking after Alex, you know, who's wheelchair bound and needs constant support and supervision. Of course, she's got my daughter helping, Jessica. She's 24. She doesn't need any help. But, you know, those guys, you know, I left them alone for the best part of 3 weeks, and they just got it done. And I felt bad about it. I mean, doing this bucket list thing, but there they are at home, just getting it done. So thank you to everyone there. I mean, it's just been amazing. And me and Rhonda have already talked about this, and she agrees that I pretty much have to come back and do this again because I have some unfinished business there. And she said, you basically got to save up all your pennies and sell some stuff though. But yeah, she's pretty much given me her blessing to go back and try this again, and we're obviously going to do it a much better and much more organised. Now I know what the car's like. I know what the car needs. I know what the car's like. Before, I really didn't know what the car needed. Obviously, it needed new suspension, new brakes, which we did not know and did not account for. But now we do know. Most of that stuff's already replaced. So we can go in and, you know, put new shocks in it, change the diff ratio, and then work out whether we're going to go a natural aspirated setup or a turbo setup. Zane is very keen to push a natural aspirated setup, so do springs, cams, a few other things, and get the most out of it natural aspirated and run it into the 11s. He thinks 11s is very possible, and I believe him. You know, we get the right gears, converter, cams, springs, send that thing, and 11s is a real possibility. And at that, we won't need a roll cage or anything. So we'll be able to do it still on a reasonable budget. So we could still use the C4, maybe do some upgrades like put a chrome moly steel input shaft into it and a few other things, you know, make sure the C4 is going to last distance. And the C4 did not let us down the entire journey. It was great. I expected a lot worse out of that C4, and it did all right. But yeah, or the other way is we go turbo. Turbo is cool. I mean, turbo will make all the power we want. We could do it on the motor that's in there. We can probably put 15 to 18 pounds into it, run easy 10s, maybe even bump into the 9s, who knows. But there's always that risk that, you know, something lets go when we try and push it too hard. And or the other way is we build an engine, you know, and send that over. But then we know, you know, Barras are, when it comes to horsepower, Barras are very much choose your own adventure in terms of horsepower. So you do a built Barra, we can make whatever we want. 1,000 at the wheels is just not even a problem. So then we're up for a very strong turbo 400 to go behind it, strong tail shaft, strong diff, so 9-inch or something like that, roll cage. So it becomes a much more expensive exercise. And again, I'm not against that, but I've got to, you know, do some real, you know, find the money somewhere. And at that point, I mean, 850s become a real possibility. I'm not kidding. I mean, the car's 2,800 pounds. You know, we put 1,000 horsepower in that. I mean, what was the Mazda was 2,880. All right. So Mazda was 2,880. Okay. I know people don't believe that, but it was. And with 1,000 at the tyres, it ran 822 at 175. So 2,800 pound with 1,000 horsepower barra in it, 1,000 rear wheel horsepower barra in it. I mean, we'd have to turn it down to 850s. You know, that's where we're at. So that could be pretty amazing. And that at that you're a class contender. You could win the Sick Freaks class with that, as we saw with old mate with the Ameribarra, the 4.2 Atlas motor in his Chevy. I forget his name, Nick, I think. He went. I don't know if that's his name actually, but anyway, he went 870s and he won the class. So 850s we could do that. But like I said, it's all competition. It's who shows up on the day and makes them the best run. So, but we would be a contender at that point. So possibilities are endless. Tell me what you think we should do. Go the lower stress NA path or the high stress and very fast turbo path. I know what either way is actually appealing to me. Like one way, we don't have to put a roll cage in the car, but we can run some respectable times. The other way, we are balls to the wall, full-on contenders for a class win. So either way really works. It just becomes a question of dollars and all that sort of stuff. And some of the stuff, like we definitely have to get the cage done before we showed up and all those sort of things. So some stuff would have to be organised well ahead of time. Can't just rock up and in 10 days put a cage and all that stuff in a car. Well, it's like, let's not do that to ourselves again. Yeah, but it has been quite the journey, quite the adventure, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We've done 18 videos, something like that. It's just been pretty full on. It really has. People say, did you have fun? I did have fun because I got to meet so many amazing people who were just so generous with their time, and we had a great time, and we want to go back and do it again. Obviously, it was also a very tough time. It was the toughest thing I've ever done, I think. Yeah, it was. It really was. There was times there I just wanted to crawl up into a little ball. And but we got it through it. We got through it and made it happen. And yeah, we did a thing. Was it as good as the thing that we wanted? No, it was not. But we still did a thing, and it was a pretty respectable thing. So, and next year we can hope to do it better. In the meantime, all right, I'm going to head back into getting this thing into the 12. So I've got an ECU to wire up into that. I want to get Trolvo going, build this big block for the Trolvo, get that wagon sorted out so it can finish off its bodywork. I've got that spot welder now. We can get the rear quarter on it and do all those sort of things. So there's lots to do here in the Scotty's garage. And we've got, we're certainly going to concentrate on that stuff for the next 6 months. And then we can start looking at our attack for Sick Summer next year. So, yeah, stay tuned and watch and enjoy everything that's coming up on Scotty's Garage.